I'm Yetunde Allen. I'm the managing partner of Lateral. Lateral is really about lateral thinking, about finding ways to develop entrepreneurs. It's about entrepreneurship development. It's something that has started from a personal journey of mine as an entrepreneur over 22 years. This is one of the harshest business. Nigeria is one of the harshest business environments in the world. Having hit a glass ceiling myself about 14 years ago, I went through a certain journey of capacity building. It took me 2 years. So what I've done is take all my years of experience as well as the years going through the capacity building process into creating a holistic business support ecosystem that I'm creating. I've actually created it and I've tested it to about 16,000 entrepreneurs. I want to impact a change and transformation to 1 million entrepreneurs. Now everyone thinks it's sort of slightly mad, but I've done 16,000 in 3 years, and now I really want to go for the next 500,000 and then the next 500,000. Now that's Lateral. What I did was I'd done about 20 years manufacturing, retail. I touched on about 4 businesses, the longest being about 12 years. And I went through the journey of entrepreneurship through the University of Life. So I didn't study consulting or anything like that. I've got a BSc in economics, but I graduated at 19. As far as I'm concerned, my economics degree, I was too young. You don't go into university at 15 and hope to become an economist out of that. I found I had a real passion for fashion, so when I finished I went to run on fashion, and I came back and I'd set up the first business at 19. It was about to grow, and this was in the early 80s, but if we think there's no access to finance now, you don't want to know what Nigeria was like in the early 80s. There was no access to finance. So I get this order from London, I'm really excited, I'm growing, I go national, blah, 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 and I can't find anybody to lend me money. Guaranteed Trust Bank, for instance, banks like that, they hadn't even started. It was the first banks, and what was fashion. So that's kind of like where some of the journey started. So I go back out to the UK, come back, I'd managed to work in investment banking out in the UK, built on a bookkeeping course on top of my economics. Then came back in here. Now, when I said earlier, it is one of the harshest business environments in the world. 70% of your costs go on electricity, or providing your own infrastructure and all of that. There was a time in my business, about 8 years on into that business, I had hit a glass ceiling. I had 13 bank accounts because literally all my clients were banks. I was working on corporate identity programs, so I was always able to them for the local, but they still wouldn't let me in money. And so on and so forth. You've got to be able to make sacrifices, you must be extremely disciplined. I believe you need to be frugal, you need to stay very passionate, you need to be very focused, you must have technical skills around what you're doing. It's not enough to say, oh, I like doing it, or somebody told me, you must build the knowledge. I also believe something that's not touched on enough, you must have integrity in business. You must mean what you say, people must be able to rely on you. If you say you're going to do this, you must deliver that, and things like that. You don't cheat people, because unbroken cycles of goodness, sooner or later it comes back to bite you. I've had clients walk me because they thought my terms were too strict, because I wouldn't lie to them and say, oh yeah, I'll deliver it at so time and take the money. 2 years later, finally they come back, but they understand my terms at that point in time. That's integrity. I really can't be bothered a great deal to go out and socialize. I'm a very social animal, but I can't be bothered to, after a long hard day, to get dressed up and go and play the glamour game and so on and so forth. So you get a bit ostracized because they don't understand where you're coming from, and I think, oh, what kind of planet are you living on? So it's a slightly different world. But in terms of even the sacrifices, a lot of them are financial. You do have to deprive yourself. You go through really hard times sometimes. I've always been a believer that absolutely you don't fail. And I never knew you could fail. But occasionally, this can be an uneven playing ground, and sometimes it does happen. You've always got to be learning, so somewhere inside all of the time you don't have, you've got to make out time to learn. In terms of sacrifices, I really think a lot of it is the impact on time. Trying to create a healthy, sort of balance around the rest of your life is really something special. Then I think it's stuff like that. Just making sure that the business always comes first. It eats into my hours, it eats into finances. That is always number one. Actually, I always joke that I have 2 Class A assets, the business and my children. And they are, just they have to take, just as equal priority. But I must say something. A good friend said this, not me, so I'll quote him, and here's to you. They're digital natives and they're digital migrants. The natives are those who it comes very naturally to. I see with my 9-year-old daughter, she handles remote controls much better than I do. The natives are those of us over 45. She said to me the other day, why do you call it a color TV? And I said, oh, when I grew up, there was black and white TV. She goes, nah, it can't be. Showing those TV. Now, digital natives are those who know the telex machine, the fax machine, the black and white TV. They know the time before video and the time of record players. We're not as comfortable as we should be. For me personally, I watch those of my age and my generation who have a lot of time to spend on Facebook. And I think, wow, how serious I am. Now, while I recognize the impact it could have, I got 500 friends, that sort of stuff, but I would really only use it for business purposes per se. I went as far as trying to engage somebody to help me handle my social media. I can see it's not going to work. So I will have to make out some time. So I really acknowledge its power, but I have a slightly personal position. I'm extremely sociable, I've always been. I know a phenomenal amount of people, and I'm finding that cyberspace is starting to erode and encroach on real life, the real world, and real relationships. So people don't pick up the phone to each other anymore, they're PPA. And a girlfriend will say to me, my daughter's godmother will say to me, oh, I'm always in touch. And I said, no, my daughter hasn't seen you in 2 years. You BB me. She doesn't have a BB, or she starts and stops. Where are the memories? Where is all of that? Facebook, I have issues around privacy, pedophilia, stuff like that. I think it has to be used really responsibly. I don't think it's used really responsibly. So while I really do understand its impact for business, and from this year, yes, I have set up a unit where we are now going to go and start using it very actively. We're still going to make sure we stay on it enough to responsibly control what goes out there. I'll just about use my platform. And I'll go on Facebook, I'll comment on Facebook like 10 times a year. I scroll through the feeds and I just sort of think, only 20% of the people that actively use Facebook I have much regard for. That's me. Like I said, I'm a digital migrant, not a native. I have made a promise to Mrs. Grasham Michelle and the New Faces, New Voices Pan-African organization that I will develop 500,000 women by March 2014. I don't even have 5 years. I want to hit the number in the next 2 years. I have 10 years traction on this and 3 years on the public domain. So it's all pretty kind of ready, and we're setting to start to unroll the stage.
Okay.
So it's a 2-year game.
Okay. So
And I will be using a lot of social media, racking up the numbers. Social media and multiple technological platforms.
Okay.
It's not just social media, it's the laptops, it's the cloud, it is keying into existing infrastructure, technology, other technological platforms like CDs, like the internet, like an online presence, video streaming, YouTube, etc.